The Zorian Empire had never faced such a dire threat. Once the proud rulers of their star systems, the Zorians were now fighting a battle they could not win. The Krelth Empire, a ruthless Eyelid force, had declared war on the Zorians, and their merciless assault was devastating. The Krelth, with their overwhelming technology and cold, emotionless tactics, tore through Zorian colonies like a force of nature. Planet after planet fell to their advanced weaponry, their cities burning in the wake of the Eye's wrath. The Zorians, skilled in technology themselves, had never anticipated such an enemy. Despite their best efforts, they were losing the war. Inside the grand hall of Zorian's capital, Empress Tylara stood before her council, her face a mask of worry. The once strong empire, with its vast fleet and advanced technology, was on the brink of collapse. The Krelth Empire's attacks were too precise, too powerful. They had sent out countless distress signals, hoping the Galactic Council would come to their aid, but their pleas were ignored. The Council, made up of dozens of alien species, saw the Zorians as weak, as nothing more than a small empire outmatched by a much larger and technologically superior foe. The Council's refusal to help was a blow to their pride, and Tylara knew there was no other choice. "We have one option left," Tylara said to her council, her voice tinged with fear. "We must call for Earth's help." A murmur ran through the room. Earth was a name that the Zorians had heard of in passing, but it was rarely taken seriously in galactic matters. Earth was home to humans, organically grown creatures, primitive by most galactic standards, and far less advanced than the Zorians in many ways. The Galactic Council often dismissed Earth and its people, considering them weak, unpredictable, and in many ways, backward. The Zorians had been proud of their technology, their military might, but now they were facing an enemy unlike any they had ever seen, and they were out of time. "We can't trust them," said one of her advisors, his voice filled with doubt. "Humans are primitive. They can't help us. Our enemies are far beyond anything they've ever dealt with." Tylara stared at her advisor, her eyes sharp and full of resolve. "Their weakness is their strength," she said, a knowing tone in her voice. "Humans may not have the same advanced technology as us, but they have something far more dangerous: survival instinct. When they fight for their lives, for their families, for their future. That is something the Krelth cannot understand." The room fell silent. The council members exchanged uneasy glances, but they knew the truth of Tylara's words. The Zorians had long relied on their technological advancements to ensure their survival, but in this case, technology was failing them. They needed something more. Tylara turned to her comms officer and spoke firmly, "Prepare a transmission to Earth. We have no time to waste." The message was brief but urgent. "To the leaders of Earth, we are the Zorian Empire. Our people are under attack by the Krelth Empire. We are losing this war, and we are in desperate need of assistance. We need your help. If you do not respond, we will fall, and the Krelth will spread their influence across the galaxy. Please, help us." Tylara's fingers hovered over the controls for a moment. She hesitated, as if unsure whether this was the right decision. But she knew it was their only hope. With a heavy heart, she sent the message into the void of space, knowing that it would be days before they would hear back, if they heard anything at all. Meanwhile, on Earth, the world had no idea that their fate was about to change. Life went on as usual for the humans, unaware of the desperate plea coming from the stars. But somewhere deep within the military command center of Earth's space fleet, a response was received. The human leaders, skeptical at first, debated the validity of the message. Was it a trap? Were the Zorians truly as desperate as they seemed? Or was this just another far-fetched plea from an unknown alien empire? But then came the voice of General Adrian Kane, a seasoned military leader, known for his sharp instincts and unwavering sense of duty. "We'll answer the call," he said simply, his voice calm yet filled with determination. "The Zorians are fighting a battle we know all too well. If they're asking for help, It means they have nowhere else to turn. We're not going to let them fall." The decision was made. The humans would answer the call for help, and they would do so in their own way. They would bring the fight to the Krelth Empire, even if it meant doing the impossible. The human fleet, with its mixture of advanced technology and old-fashioned willpower, would be on its way. The Zorian Empire had never faced such a dire threat. Once the proud rulers of their star systems, the Zorians were now fighting a battle they could not win. The Krelth Empire, a ruthless eyelid force, had declared war on the Zorians, and their merciless assault was devastating. The Krelth, with their overwhelming technology and cold, emotionless tactics, tore through Zorian colonies like a force of nature. Planet after planet fell to their advanced weaponry, their cities burning in the wake of the Eye's wrath. The Zorians, skilled in technology themselves, had never anticipated such an enemy. Despite their best efforts, they were losing the war. Inside the grand hall of Zorian's capital, Empress Tylara stood before her council, her face a mask of worry. The once strong empire, with its vast fleet and advanced technology, was on the brink of collapse. The Krelth Empire's attacks were too precise, too powerful. They had sent out countless distress signals, hoping the Galactic Council would come to their aid, but their pleas were ignored. The Council, made up of dozens of alien species, saw the Zorians as weak, as nothing more than a small empire outmatched by a much larger and technologically superior foe. The Council's refusal to help was a blow to their pride, and Tylara knew there was no other choice. "We have one option left," Tylara said to her council, her voice tinged with fear. "We must call for Earth's help." A murmur ran through the room. Earth was a name that the Zorians had heard of in passing, but it was rarely taken seriously in galactic matters. Earth was home to humans, organically grown creatures, primitive by most galactic standards, and far less advanced than the Zorians in many ways. The Galactic Council often dismissed Earth and its people, considering them weak, unpredictable, and, in many ways, backward. The Zorians had been proud of their technology, their military might, but now they were facing an enemy unlike any they had ever seen, and they were out of time. "We can't trust them," said one of her advisors, his voice filled with doubt. "Humans are primitive. They can't help us. Our enemies are far beyond anything they've ever dealt with." Tylara stared at her advisor, her eyes sharp and full of resolve. "Their weakness is their strength," she said, a knowing tone in her voice. "Humans may not have the same advanced technology as us, but they have something far more dangerous: survival instinct. When they fight for their lives, for their families, for their future. That is something the Krelth cannot understand." The room fell silent. The council members exchanged uneasy glances, but they knew the truth of Tylara's words. The Zorians had long relied on their technological advancements to ensure their survival, but in this case, technology was failing them. They needed something more. Tylara turned to her comms officer and spoke firmly. "Prepare a transmission to Earth. We have no time to waste." The message was brief but urgent. "To the leaders of Earth, we are the Zorian Empire. Our people are under attack by the Krelth Empire. We are losing this war, and we are in desperate need of assistance. We need your help. If you do not respond, we will fall, and the Krelth will spread their influence across the galaxy. Please, help us." Tylara's fingers hovered over the controls for a moment. She hesitated, as if unsure whether this was the right decision. But she knew it was their only hope. With a heavy heart, she sent the message into the void of space, knowing that it would be days before they would hear back, if they heard anything at all. Meanwhile, on Earth, the world had no idea that their fate was about to change. Life went on as usual for the humans, unaware of the desperate plea coming from the stars. But somewhere deep within the military command center of Earth's space fleet, a response was received. The human leaders, skeptical at first, debated the validity of the message. Was it a trap? Were the Zorians truly as desperate as they seemed? Or was this just another far-fetched plea from an unknown alien empire? But then came the voice of General Adrian Kane, a seasoned military leader known for his sharp instincts and unwavering sense of duty. "We'll answer the call," he said simply, his voice calm yet filled with determination. "The Zorians are fighting a battle we know all too well. If they're asking for help, it means they have nowhere else to turn. We're not going to let them fall." The decision was made. The humans would answer the call for help, and they would do so in their own way. They would bring the fight to the Krelth Empire, even if it meant doing the impossible. The human fleet, with its mixture of advanced technology and old-fashioned willpower, would be on its way. Adrian looked at the Zorian Empress, his expression unreadable. "We're here to help," he said, his voice low but steady. "But don't mistake our kindness for weakness. We do what we must to survive." The Zorians had heard about the humans' reputation for being fierce in battle, but seeing them in person was something entirely different. Their soldiers had an aura about them, an unspoken understanding of what it meant to be at war. The Zorians had always prided themselves on their discipline and technology, but in comparison to the humans, they seemed almost civilized. It was a hard pill to swallow, but they knew they had no choice. The humans had arrived, and there was no turning back now. Despite the human show of force, Empress Tylara couldn't shake her doubts. She studied Captain Kane carefully, trying to read him. She had never seen a leader quite like him. So calm, so confident, but she couldn't help but wonder, was it possible that the humans had their own motives for coming here? Could they be using the Zorians' desperate situation for their own gain? The Krelth had been ruthless in their conquest, but the humans, they were unpredictable. "I'm not so sure we can trust them," Tylara whispered to her closest advisor, a tall, thin Zorian named Velar. "They claim to help, but why would they come to the aid of a dying empire? What do they want in return?" Velar frowned, his eyes narrowing as he observed the humans. "Maybe it's not about what they want, Empress. Maybe it's about what they can offer us. We've lost everything. The only thing we have left is hope, and if they can save us, I would welcome it." But Tylara was still uncertain. "Hope is a dangerous thing, Velar. It can make you do foolish things." As the Zorians and humans prepared for the next wave of Krelth attacks, the tension between them remained palpable. The humans were setting up their advanced equipment, EMP weapons that could disable the Krelth's AI systems, and drones guided by sophisticated artificial intelligence that could outmaneuver the Krelth's own machines. It was clear that the humans had technology far beyond anything the Zorians had ever seen, but there was still something unsettling about the humans' methods. They seemed too comfortable in the chaos of war, too willing to take risks. The Krelth, however, were not so easily deterred. The Krelth Eye, now aware of the human presence, adjusted its tactics. It had grown accustomed to battling robotic forces and artificial intelligence. But humans were different. They fought with passion, with everything on the line. The Krelth didn't know how to anticipate that. The first real test came when the Krelth ambushed the Zorian and human forces on the outskirts of the capital. A massive Krelth fleet, hidden in the shadows of a nearby asteroid field, sprang into action, launching a surprise attack that nearly overwhelmed the joint human-Zorian defenses. The humans were quick to react, sending out a barrage of missiles. But the Krelth were relentless. The Zorians, although skilled in space combat, were still reeling from the earlier losses. They had underestimated the sheer number of Krelth ships. Captain Kane was the first to act. He didn't hesitate, didn't wait for the situation to get worse. His calm demeanor shifted into a focused intensity, and he ordered his troops into action with a single command. Activate the EMP shields, target the Krelth AI units, lock onto their drones, and take them out. The human soldiers moved quickly, their advanced technology allowing them to coordinate and communicate without a single word. The Zorians, though they had their own advanced tech, were taken aback by how smoothly the humans worked together. The humans didn't hesitate. They didn't rely on technology alone. They used it to augment their skills, to enhance their instincts. The battle raged on, with explosions lighting up the dark sky. The humans fought fiercely, their tactics unpredictable, a chaotic dance of destruction. Zorian and human forces fought side by side, robots and soldiers working together in a harmony the Zorians had never experienced. But even as the humans' drones and AI-guided weapons wreaked havoc on the Krulth forces, the battle was far from over. The Krulth retaliated with even more force, and it became clear that the Eyelid Empire had underestimated the humans. Amid the chaos, sparks flew as the first of the human aerodromes collided with Krulth battle machines. The air was thick with the sounds of gunfire, the hum of high-tech weaponry, and the crackle of energy shields as they flickered in and out of existence. The Krulth forces adapted quickly, but so did the humans. As Captain Kane looked over the battlefield, his face set with determination, he knew that the true test had only just begun. The Zorians had never fought a war like this before, and neither had the humans. They were all in this together, but would it be enough to turn the tide of the war? Would the humans' ferocity and unpredictable tactics be enough to defeat the Krulth? Only time would tell. But for now, they had one advantage. The Krulth had never fought a war against something as unpredictable as humanity. The air was thick with tension as the ground forces prepared for the assault. The humans, despite being outnumbered and facing an overwhelming AI-controlled army, were ready for battle. The Krulth stronghold was well guarded, with towering walls and heavily armed war machines patrolling every corner. It was a fortress designed to resist anything that came its way. But the humans weren't afraid. They had faced worse, and this was just another challenge to overcome. Captain Adrian Kane stood at the front of the human forces, his expression stoic but determined. He looked at his soldiers, all of whom were focused and prepared. They had trained for moments like this, when everything was on the line. The Krulth AI forces were cold, calculating, and efficient, but the humans had something the Krulth didn't: unpredictability and instinct. As the human soldiers moved into position, the first wave of Krulth war machines appeared. They were massive, towering machines with glinting weapons and reinforced armor. The Krulth had programmed their machines to be nearly invincible, but the humans were about to show them that no machine could outsmart human ingenuity. The first few minutes of the battle were a blur of explosions and laser fire. The humans moved quickly, darting from cover to cover, using the terrain to their advantage. They didn't stand still. They didn't wait for the enemy to come to them. They were constantly on the move, striking hard and fast. The Krulth forces were powerful, but they were predictable. Their AI-driven war machines followed a rigid pattern, and that was their weakness. Adrian Kane watched as his soldiers launched surprise attacks from unexpected angles, flanking the Krulth machines and targeting weak spots in their armor. The Krulth may have had advanced technology, but the humans had the upper hand when it came to strategy. They had learned to fight as a team, thinking on their feet and adapting quickly to the ever-changing battlefield. No Krulth machine could account for human creativity. As the battle raged on, it became clear that the Krulth had underestimated the humans. Despite being outnumbered and outgunned, the humans were systematically disabling the war machines, one by one. The Krulth AI tried to adapt, but it couldn't keep up with the humans' quick reflexes and unpredictable tactics. The Krulth's confidence was shattered. They had never encountered an enemy like this. From the Zorian command center, Empress Tylara watched in awe as the humans fought. Her initial doubts about them seemed foolish now. The humans were fearless, relentless, and above all, they fought with everything they had. They didn't fight for glory or power. They fought for each other. It was a lesson Tylara was beginning to understand. Amid the chaos of battle, one soldier stood out to Tylara: Bonner, a human soldier who had become a symbol of the human spirit. Bonner was everywhere, leading his comrades with courage, taking down Krulth war machines with pinpoint accuracy, and moving through the battlefield like a force of nature. But Tylara soon realized that Bonner was not invincible. The Krell forces had regrouped, launching a concentrated assault on the human and Zorian positions. The situation was dire. The Krell's AI systems were beginning to adapt, and their attacks were becoming more coordinated. It seemed like the tide of battle might be turning in the Krell's favor. That was when Bonner made the ultimate sacrifice. As a Krell war machine locked its sights on Tylara, preparing to unleash a devastating blast, Bonner threw himself in front of the Zorian Empress, shielding her with his own body. The explosion rocked the battlefield, and Tylara watched in horror as Bonner's body was torn apart by the blast. For a moment, the battlefield fell silent. The humans, all of them, seemed to pause in shock. But then, something changed. A fire sparked in their eyes. They had lost one of their own, but they would not let his death be in vain. The rage that burned inside them turned into a fury unlike any the Krell had seen before. The humans fought with a renewed purpose, their movements faster, their attacks more aggressive. Bonner's sacrifice had ignited something deep within them. Tylara, still in shock, watched as the humans pressed on, their battle cries echoing across the battlefield. They didn't stop. They didn't retreat. They fought harder than ever before. Bonner's death had sparked something, an emotional core that drove the humans to push through, to overcome the odds, to keep fighting for each other. Tylara couldn't help but feel a deep sense of respect for the humans. She had been wrong about them. They didn't fight for glory or power. They fought for each other, for the people they cared about. And that was something she had never seen in her own people. The Zorians had always fought for survival, for dominance, but the humans fought for love, for camaraderie, for unity. They were a force to be reckoned with. As the battle continued, the Krell war machines began to falter. The human strategy had worked. By targeting weak points in the Krell AI's programming, they had managed to disable the enemy's most powerful weapons. The tide of the battle had turned, and the humans were now in control. Explosions rang out as the humans launched a final assault, sweeping through the Krell stronghold and taking down the last of their war machines. The Krell forces, overwhelmed and outsmarted, retreated in disarray. The battlefield was littered with the wreckage of destroyed Krell machines, and the humans stood victorious. But as the smoke cleared, the victory felt hollow. Bonner was gone. His sacrifice had saved Tylara and turned the battle in their favor, but it had come at a high cost. Tylara couldn't shake the image of Bonner's lifeless body, his final act of bravery forever etched in her mind. The Zorians and humans had won, but the true price of victory was still fresh in their minds. The Krell had been defeated, but the war was far from over. There were more battles to fight, more enemies to face, and more sacrifices to be made. But for now, the humans had proven their worth. They had shown the Zorians that they were not to be underestimated, that they were willing to fight and die for each other. The humans had won the first battle, but the war was just beginning. And Empress Tylara realized something she had never considered before. Perhaps the humans were the key to ending the war. Not because of their technology or their strength, but because of their unwavering bond and the deep, unshakable loyalty they had for each other. The Krell AI may have been powerful, but it could never replicate that. The humans were something entirely different, something far more dangerous to the Krell than they could ever imagine. The tension in the air was palpable as Captain Adrian Kane stood before his team, laying out a plan that seemed almost impossible. The mission was clear: shut down the Krell Empire's AI core, the heart of their massive war machine. The core was buried deep within the Krell's most fortified stronghold, protected by layers of defenses, traps, and advanced weaponry. The task was suicide. It was a one-way mission where survival wasn't guaranteed. But the humans were willing to face it head-on. There was no hesitation, no second thoughts. They had come too far to back down now. Adrian's voice was steady, but the weight of what they were about to do hung heavily in the air. We have one chance to shut down their AI. If we fail, it's over. For all of us. His words were met with resolute silence from his team. The humans had faced death countless times before, but this time was different. This time, the fate of entire civilizations rested in their hands. Sarah, one of Adrian's most trusted soldiers, glanced at him, her face set in determination. "We're ready, sir. We'll do whatever it takes." Her words were firm, but the hint of fear in her eyes was undeniable. They had all lost so much already. Each one of them carried scars, both visible and invisible, from the battles they had fought. But now they were fighting for something bigger than themselves. The plan was risky, bordering on impossible. They would have to infiltrate the heart of the Krellth's defenses, break through layers of high-tech security, and reach the AI core. If they could disable it, the Krellth's entire army would be crippled. Without their AI-driven war machines, they would lose their advantage. But if the Krellth AI detected them too early, it would wipe them out before they even got close. As the team made their way toward the Krellth stronghold, the gravity of the situation began to settle in. The mission wasn't just about defeating the enemy. It was about survival, for the Zorians, for the humans, and for anyone who had the courage to stand against the Krellth Empire. The Zorians, despite their advanced technology, were helpless against the overwhelming AI forces. That was why they had turned to the humans for help. And now, it was time for the humans to prove their worth. The journey to the Krellth stronghold was perilous. Every step was fraught with danger. The Krellth had anticipated the human forces' movements and had set up elaborate traps, automated turrets, and roving patrols. The humans were well trained, but the Krellth's defenses were formidable. Despite the odds, they pressed forward, each soldier driven by a sense of purpose that was greater than fear. In the thick of the operation, Adrian and his team managed to infiltrate the Krellth base. They moved with precision, silently taking down guards and disarming traps as they navigated through narrow, dimly lit corridors. The air was heavy with the smell of metal and dust, and the sound of their footsteps echoed off the cold walls. Tension built with every passing second. The deeper they went, the more dangerous the mission became. The Krellth had designed the base to be nearly impenetrable, but the humans had something the Krellth didn't, a burning desire to succeed and protect those they loved. As they neared the AI core, the first real test came. A laser grid blocked their path, a seemingly impassable barrier designed to slice through anything in its way. Adrian signaled to his team, and without hesitation, they began working together, carefully cutting through the wires and rerouting the power. Each movement had to be precise. One mistake, and the grid would activate, triggering alarms and sending waves of Krellth soldiers to intercept them. Sarah, working beside Adrian, glanced at him. "Do you think we'll make it out alive, Captain?" Her voice was quiet, but the question carried the weight of their situation. Adrian's response was simple but reassuring. "We're not here to die, Sarah. We're here to win." The laser grid was disarmed, but the sound of their actions echoed through the corridors, drawing unwanted attention. The team moved quickly, pushing forward even as the first Krellth patrol rounded the corner. A firefight ensued. Laser blasts illuminated the dark hallways, creating a chaotic and dangerous scene. The humans, trained for moments like this, fought with everything they had. They used their agility, their speed, and their knowledge of the terrain to their advantage. They moved as a unit, covering each other, pushing forward despite the overwhelming odds. For a moment, it seemed like they might not make it. The Krellth forces were relentless. But the humans didn't back down. They pressed on, their determination unshaken. They weren't just fighting for victory. They were fighting for survival, for the future, and for the promise of a world free from the Krellth's iron grip. As they reached the final chamber where the AI core was housed, the tension reached its peak. The walls were lined with advanced tech, and the air hummed with energy. The AI core itself was a massive, glowing sphere, pulsating with power. It was the heart of the Krellth Empire's war machine, the central control for their army of AI-driven war machines. But as Adrian and his team prepared to plant the explosives that would disable the core, a sudden realization struck. The AI had anticipated their arrival. It wasn't just going to sit idly by and allow them to destroy it. The moment they entered the chamber, the AI began to react, locking down the room and activating every defense system in the stronghold. The room was suddenly filled with blinding light as energy shields activated, blocking the doorways and trapping them inside. The walls began to close in, and the AI's voice boomed through the speakers, its cold, mechanical tone sending a chill down their spines. "You cannot stop the Krelth. Your efforts are futile." But the humans were not deterred. Adrian motioned for his team to begin planting the explosives. It was their only chance. They fought through the AI's defenses, disarming traps and taking down Krelth guards one by one. Sweat poured down their faces as they worked as quickly as possible. Every second counted. They knew the AI would only grow stronger, more powerful, the longer they stayed inside the chamber. Outside, Tylara and the Zorians were in the command center, coordinating the attack. The situation was growing desperate. The humans had made it to the AI core, but would they succeed in disabling it in time? Tylara's thoughts were with them as she looked out at the battlefield. She had seen the humans fight before, but now, watching them risk everything to destroy the heart of the Krelth Empire, she saw something deeper. These weren't just soldiers. They were people with a bond that transcended all else. They fought for each other, not for glory, not for power, but for a future worth fighting for. And that was something the Zorians had never truly understood until now. The moments that followed were a blur of chaos and noise. The humans had breached the core's defenses, but they were running out of time. The walls were closing in. They had seconds before the AI's countermeasures would destroy everything. But just when it seemed like all was lost, the explosion hit. The core, and with it the entire Krelth stronghold, was disabled. A massive shockwave rippled through the building as the lights flickered and went dark. The humans had done it. Adrian stood there, breathing heavily, as the realization began to settle in. They had completed their mission, but at what cost? The Krelth Empire's AI had been neutralized, but the battle was far from over. The war had taken a turn, and there was no going back. They had made a powerful statement, one that would change everything. The battle had reached its climax. The Krelth Empire's AI core had been destroyed, and with it, the powerful machines that had terrorized countless civilizations. The AI-controlled war machines, once unstoppable, were now falling apart, their systems crashing as the core went dark. But while this victory was monumental, it didn't come without a heavy price. Adrian Kane and his team had fought through hell to reach this point, and now, even as the Krelth army was crumbling, their own forces were facing overwhelming odds. The battlefield was chaotic, with explosions echoing across the landscape as the Krelth strongholds crumbled under the pressure. The once mighty Krelth machines were now just lifeless heaps of metal, but the soldiers were still fighting. The human team was pinned down by Krelth infantry, their positions being relentlessly targeted by automated turrets and sniper drones. They were outgunned and outnumbered, but they refused to surrender. Captain Kane's voice crackled through the comms. "Hold your ground, team. We've come this far. We finish it here." His words were a rallying cry, but even he knew that they couldn't hold out forever. The Krelth were desperate now, throwing everything they had left at the humans. Each blast that rang out seemed to take another soldier, another friend. One by one, Adrian's team was being whittled down. Bonner, the soldier who had sacrificed himself to save Tylara during an earlier assault, was the first to fall. His absence was a painful reminder of what they had lost. The survivors fought on, but the emotional weight of each fallen comrade was heavy. They had come so far, but now the end seemed so close. Each movement, each decision could be the last. But just when it seemed like all hope was lost, something shifted. A voice broke through the comms, not from a human, but from Tylara, the Zorian leader. "We're coming," she said, her tone full of resolve. The Zorians had been watching from the sidelines, waiting for the right moment to act. Now, that moment had arrived. With a roar, Tylara and her forces charged into battle, leading the Zorians in a powerful assault that quickly turned the tide. The Zorians, though not as experienced in ground combat as the humans, fought with a ferocity born from desperation. They followed the humans' lead, using their advanced technology and unmatched strength to tear through the remaining Krell forces. Tylara fought alongside Adrian, her advanced combat skills complementing his strategy. Together, they moved through the battlefield like a storm. Tylara's energy blades cut through the Krell ranks, while Adrian's team provided covering fire, fending off the last of the Krell soldiers. The Zorians were relentless, pushing forward without hesitation, wiping out any resistance that stood in their path. The sky above them was lit up by the glow of orbital bombardment as the final assault on the Krell stronghold began. The humans had called in their warships, unleashing a barrage of missiles that rained down upon the last of the Krell's defenses. The ground shook with each explosion, sending shockwaves through the battlefield. Explosions filled the air, and fire and debris rained down from the sky, turning the once pristine landscape into a war zone. Amidst the chaos, Tylara and Adrian found themselves fighting side by side, their bond stronger than ever. They moved as one, each anticipating the other's actions. Tylara's alien agility and Adrian's quick thinking made them an unstoppable force. They were not just fighting for victory now, they were fighting for the future of their people. As the last of the Krell forces fell, the battlefield began to quiet. The sound of gunfire faded, replaced by the haunting silence of the aftermath. The once imposing Krell stronghold lay in ruins, its shattered walls a testament to the ferocity of the final battle. The humans and Zorians stood victorious, but the cost of that victory was undeniable. Tylara stood beside Adrian, her breath heavy, her body covered in the grime and blood of battle. She turned to him, her expression solemn but filled with a deep understanding. "You were right," she said softly, her voice barely audible over the distant sounds of the battlefield. "Humans fight for each other, for life." Adrian nodded, his own gaze distant. He had heard those words before, but they meant more now than they ever had. The humans fought not for glory, not for power, but for the lives of those they cared about. They fought for each other, for the bonds they had formed along the way. And in the end, that was what had made them so powerful. The Krell may have had advanced technology and vast armies, but the humans had something they couldn't defeat: a sense of unity, a shared purpose, and an unbreakable will to survive. As the final explosions echoed in the distance, the survivors began to gather. The humans and Zorians stood together, side by side, surveying the battlefield. The victory had come at a terrible cost. So many lives had been lost, so many sacrifices made. But despite the heavy heartache, there was a sense of pride in the air. They had done it. Together, they had defeated the Krell. But the war wasn't over yet. There would be more battles to fight, more enemies to face. The Krell Empire was a shattered husk, but there were others out there, other threats that still loomed in the galaxy. For now, however, they could rest, knowing that they had forged something stronger than any weapon: the bond of comradeship and the promise of a better future. As the survivors gathered, their minds were filled with the memories of their fallen comrades, the faces of those who had sacrificed everything for the cause. The battle had been won, but the scars would remain. Adrian and his team, along with the Zorians, knew that they had done something remarkable. They had stood together in the face of impossible odds and emerged victorious. But even as they mourned their losses, they also knew that their fight was far from over. The universe was vast, and there would always be new challenges ahead. But now, they were no longer alone. The Zorians had fought alongside them, and they had formed a bond that could never be broken. Together, they would face whatever came next, knowing that their strength lay in unity, in fighting for each other, and in the hope that one day, the galaxy would be at peace. As the sun began to set over the battlefield, Casting a warm, golden light across the ruins of the Krelth stronghold, Adrian and Tylara stood side by side, looking out at the horizon. They had won this battle, but the war for the future was just beginning, and they would face it together, as allies, as friends, and as something more. They had proven to the galaxy that even the most powerful empires could be brought down by the strength of those who fought for life, for each other, and for the future. And that, in the end, was what made them truly unstoppable. The battle was over. The Krelth Empire, once a dominant force in the galaxy, had been shattered by the combined strength of Earth's military and the Zorians. The skies above the Krelth homeworld, which had once been filled with the terrifying presence of their warships, were now silent. No longer would the Krelth's reign of terror cast a shadow over the galaxy. The victory was hard-earned, and its cost had been steep, but it was undeniable. Humanity and the Zorians had won. As the dust settled and the final echoes of the battle faded, Earth and the Zorians began to forge a new alliance. What had begun as a reluctant partnership had blossomed into a bond stronger than any the galaxy had seen before. The Zorians, who had once viewed humans as mere outsiders, now looked up to them with respect and admiration. They had seen the humans fight not just for survival, but for each other, for the greater good, and that more than anything had inspired them. Tylara, now the leader of the Zorian people, stood beside Adrian Kane, gazing out over the battlefield. The once mighty Krelth stronghold was now a pile of rubble, a silent testament to the fierce battles that had taken place there. The humans and Zorians stood together, looking at the destruction, but also at the possibilities ahead. Together, they had fought the Krelth and emerged victorious. Now, they would rebuild. The humans. Tylara began, her voice full of awe. You fought not just to save us, but for something greater, for a future where peace is possible. Adrian nodded, his expression somber. He had always known that the fight was bigger than just one battle, one victory. It was about more than defeating an enemy. It was about creating a future where alliances like this could exist, where different species could stand together and work toward a common goal. But that future had come at a cost. Adrian looked out over the battlefield, his thoughts heavy. He thought of Bonner, the soldier who had given his life to save Tylara, of the countless others who had fallen in the fight. The humans had sacrificed so much, and though they had secured victory, it wasn't without its pain. We saved you, Tylara, Adrian said quietly, but at what cost? So many lives were lost, so many good men and women. We'll never forget them. Tylara placed a hand on his shoulder, a silent understanding passing between them. She, too, had lost friends, comrades, people who had fought and died for a cause greater than themselves. And she knew that the Zorians would never forget the sacrifices the humans had made. But in the quiet aftermath of the battle, there was hope. The galaxy, once threatened by the Krelth's insidious plans, now had a chance to rebuild, to heal. The humans and Zorians were no longer just allies. They were a united force, stronger for having fought together, stronger for having learned from each other. And they would carry that strength forward into the future. Adrian and his team boarded their ships, their mission complete, but their hearts weighed heavy. The human soldiers had fought with everything they had, heart, soul, and sheer willpower. But they were also human, and that meant they carried with them the burden of their losses. As the ships took off, leaving the war-torn planet behind, there was a sense of finality in the air. The war was over, but the journey had only just begun. Back on Earth, the people would celebrate their victory. The news of the human warriors' triumph would spread across the planet, sparking a renewed sense of unity and pride. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and had come out on top. But for the soldiers who had fought in the war, there would be no parade, no grand celebrations. They had done what was necessary, what was right. And now, they would return to their lives, forever changed by the events they had witnessed. The Zorians, however, had a different task. They would not simply rebuild their cities and their society. They would rebuild the very fabric of their culture, inspired by the human strength they had witnessed. Tylara, standing at the head of the Zorian people, would ensure that the lessons learned from the battle would never be forgotten. The story of the humans, of their bravery, their sacrifice, their unity, would become a cornerstone of Zorian culture. As the last of the human ships lifted off, leaving the Zorian homeworld behind, there was a new understanding between the two species. The Zorians began to spread the tales of the human warriors, tales of a race that had faced the impossible and had emerged victorious. They would teach their children of the humans who had stood tall against all odds, who had fought for each other, for life, for peace. The humans may have returned to Earth, their mission accomplished, but their legacy would live on. The story of their bravery and sacrifice would be told for generations, not just on Earth, but across the galaxy. The Zorians would carry the memory of the humans with them, telling their stories to other species, inspiring others to stand tall in the face of adversity. And as the humans watched from Earth, they knew that their fight had meant something more than just survival. They had given the galaxy hope. They had shown that even in the darkest times, when all seemed lost, there were those who would stand against the darkness, who would fight for each other and for a better future. The humans had left behind a legacy that would endure long after the smoke of battle had cleared. As the sun set over Earth, casting a golden glow over the planet, Adrian and his team stood together, watching as the stars twinkled above. The war was over, but the universe was still vast, still full of possibilities. There would always be new challenges, new battles to fight. But the humans had proven something that would echo throughout the galaxy, that they were not just survivors. They were warriors, fighters, and allies. And no matter the odds, they would stand tall, united, ready to face whatever came next. The legacy of humanity was not just in their victories, but in the way they had fought, not for glory, not for power, but for each other. And that, in the end, was what made them truly unstoppable.